Welcome into episode 3 of the Fourth Down Football Show. What a weekend it was in football in general. The NFL is officially back. Is Texas actually back? We get into all that stuff. We bring in Melo for some college football. We bring in Kyle for some NFL talk. And I'm joining them both, of course. Thanks for watching. Let's dive right into it. Melo for some college football talk right off the bat. Here we go. And we're bringing in Melo right now. Talk a little college football. Melo, it was a great weekend in college football, was it not?
It was a great weekend in college football. We're gonna touch on some teams, but you know, everybody played week one. Now it's like, all right, we got to see some better games. We got to see some teams against some opponents. So college football is fun, and there was a lot of fun games over the weekend.
There was. USC took care of business against Nevada, right?
They beat Stanford. They opened up
Stanford, that's
Pac-12
right.
play. They opened up their Pac-12 play and beat the crap out of them for the final meeting.
That's right. That's right. Stanford didn't get the invite to the Big Ten, so.
Nor they should have. So okay.
Yeah, I can't wait to see that Penn State USC game coming up next year, though, because the way these two teams are playing right now.
Yeah, and they're right behind each other in the polls every almost, if not, they're very close every week. And obviously it's still September. Penn State still has to go to the Big Ten, their schedule. We still got to go through our stuff, but you could easily have a Penn State USC semifinal on January 1st. It could happen.
It could happen. It's not impossible, and we'll talk about both of our teams later. But we're going to lead it off with still the hottest topic in college football. Colorado Buffs took care of Nebraska handily. And maybe the craziest part of it is they didn't even play fantastic, especially in the first half. You got a chance to check that game out, Melo?
Yeah, I saw pretty much all of it. And yeah, it was not a good game for the entire first half. The Colorado offense was very just inconsistent. You could tell that there was a letdown after scoring, I think, 42, 45 points against TCU in week one. A little bit of a letdown. I'm sure some nerves had to do with it. Listen, I don't know when the last time that stadium in Colorado was filled, but that place was rocking and the fans showed up. The props to them. So I'm sure some nerves for everybody, but inconsistent offense, but just Nebraska, damn, that was not a good performance from. Everybody thought that this school was going to be better this year, and listen, they're 0-2. They can still turn it around, but ugly quarterback play. But Colorado did what they were supposed to do. They weathered the storm, and eventually the offense woke up and they took care of business.
That's right. And even with the offense, so to say, not looking great, especially in the first half, they still didn't turn the ball over. Shedeur Sanders hasn't thrown an interception yet, I don't believe. And it's one thing for your offense, like you said, be sleeping, so to say, but it's another thing when you're turning it over. And I'd definitely rather have the first and have your offense not be awake and rolling fully than to be turning the ball over all the time, which has not been the case. They haven't turned it over a lot. Nebraska, we don't need to spend too much time on them. But like you said, bringing in Matt Rule, they thought they could change the program around. Hasn't really been the case yet, but then again, with college football, sometimes it can take a little time to build up a program again. But in this case, Colorado on the flip side of the field, Dion has been able to flip around Colorado's program instantly. The first year he's been there, so I'm pretty impressed by that. How legit do you think Colorado is at this point?
I'm gonna be conservative and say I'm not sure yet, because They played a very overrated team in TCU that lost pretty much all their offense and went to the NFL. They were not the same team. And then they beat up on a bad Nebraska team that lost the week before. Um, their schedule will get tougher. And they play Colorado State this week, which, by the way, ESPN College Game Day is going to Boulder for that. So congratulations to them. And I'm sure, again, that's going to be a great atmosphere on Saturday. But after that, they have a big game against Oregon. And I'm pretty sure it's at Oregon. I'm not sure. And then USC, my school. We got to go up there and play them. So we're going to learn a lot about this Colorado team in the next couple of weeks. But listen, I love the story that's happening right now. I do. It's great for college football. It's great to see Deion Sanders turn this program around that won just one game last year. But I still need to see a little bit more. They're playing great. I just need to see against better competition, which is coming in 2 weeks.
Yeah, that's completely fair. And they're going to probably rise in the poll again if they beat Colorado State, which is very likely, seeing as Colorado State not a ranked team at all and not really a good football team at all. But they're probably going to rise in the rankings again until they play a real team. And that's sort of how it goes for college football. If you are undefeated and you're, and a decent team, I mean, they're not taking the worst teams that are undefeated. That doesn't matter that much. But if you're undefeated, you're going to get into contention, especially knocking off TCU. It's not as good as maybe initially we thought, because TCU isn't as good as we initially thought. But it's still something, because TCU they're still a decent team. Whether they were overhyped coming into the season or not, they're still a decent squad. And then beating Nebraska's a Power 5 school, and that's like, when it's on your schedule, you're supposed to beat them, and they did what they had to. So I don't know. I'm impressed, but like you said, it's a little too early necessarily to say whether they're I'm not going to say college football playoff contention, but contention for the SEC, or not the SEC, the Pac-12, or even next year when they move into the Big 12. So yet to be seen there. You got anything else on Colorado?
Yeah, in terms of the gambling side, if you took Colorado the last 2 weeks, you took Vegas to the cleaners, because they had TCU about a 22-point favorite week one. Colorado completely took care of that. And then right after that game, Nebraska was like a touchdown favorite until they won, and then they flipped it to like a Colorado was favored. But if you were betting Colorado the last 2 weeks, probably made some money. And I don't think Vegas is going to do that again. I think they're starting to get the respect in Vegas.
Yeah, I doubt they'll make that mistake again. Vegas seems to be pretty quick on that most of the time. But hopping over to, I would say, the game of the week in college football, and debatably even in the NFL compared to the NFL games that we had on Sunday as well. Texas took on Alabama, and exactly right. It was horns up. It was hook 'em. It was hook 'em for that game. Texas takes them down 34-24, and Quinn Ewers looked good. Texas looked good. Alabama looked outmatched. To be completely honest, they looked outmatched on their offensive line, and their defensive line wasn't able to create the pressure they needed to. Texas's wide receivers looked really good as well. Did you get a chance? Did you get a chance to watch that game? I know you were dealing with some Disney and Spectrum disputes, but did you get a chance to check that game out?
So I was working, but I was able to see all of the first half, and I saw highlights of the second half on a legal stream. So thank you very much. Texas just has more playmakers. I think that was the one thing that I took away from the game. Remember, these two schools met each other in Texas last season, and if it wasn't for a couple big plays by Bryce Young, Texas wins that game too. But it came down to a last-minute field goal. So even though they did lose last year, Texas and Steve Sarkisian, the head coach of Texas, he kept them very close. and they were very close to winning the game last year. I think this year just better players, better offensive players, more playmakers. When have you ever heard the phrase Alabama got outplayed and got outmatched? You have
Yeah.
never heard that in the Nick Saban era, not his team. But it happened this past Saturday. And I know the AP poll gave them their respect in the rankings. Dare I say Texas is back? Dare I say that after week 2?
We were hearing Texas is back for probably the last 3 years, I would say. It's been they would sneak into the poll at the beginning of the season, and I don't know about you, but I was always like, all right, I didn't grow up or pay attention to college football in the era where Texas was good, in those Colt McCoy days, in those Emmanuel Acho days, Vince Young days. That wasn't my era of college football, or at least when I was watching it. So I never understood why Texas was getting all this hype when they never won any games, it seemed like, or they finished 8-4 every year. Like, why are you coming in ranked number 18 every year when it's the same old letdown? But now Texas might be back. And it just makes their move to the SEC even more exciting, in my opinion, because now we're going to get to see this matchup more often. The schedule might not have it fall every single year, but we're going to see it more often. With Alabama, though, their quarterback, Jalen Milroe, it didn't look great. It didn't look great for him. Do you think he gets benched? Maybe not next week or this coming week, but sometime this season.
I think so. I think he does. I think if you're listen, I'm not saying it's panic time for the Crimson Tide. I'm not saying any of that, but you have missed out on a college football playoff, I think, the last 2 seasons. And obviously Alabama's always in win now mode. So, and I think Nick Saban sees the rest of college football finally catching up to him. Specifically Georgia. They've won the last 2 national championships. And these other schools now with the NIL and stuff, they're catching up to Alabama. So to me, I think Nick Saban you could potentially see a quarterback change very soon. If this kid doesn't turn it around.
I mean, they have the transfer from Notre Dame, Tyler Buckner, sitting behind him, and there was a reason they brought in he's not the best quarterback, otherwise he'd be starting, but there's a reason that you brought in a transfer quarterback in the transfer portal, and it's because if it was Bryce Young sitting there still playing quarterback, you probably wouldn't bring him in because he's a senior this year, Tyler Buckner. So it wouldn't make much sense to bring him in if you thought you had your guy. Clearly there's a little bit of doubt there on the Alabama side. I guess we'll see. I didn't think he looked great. He missed some throws, and it didn't seem like he was going through his progressions the best on offense there. So I don't know. I don't know if Nick Saban's going to let him ride out. Nick Saban really hasn't been in this position since benching Jalen Hurts for Tua in that national championship game. So this is unfamiliar territory for Bama and for Coach Saban in the last couple of years. But on the playoff implication side of it, first off, do you see Texas making a college football playoff run?
I do. I think that win against Alabama is going to mean a lot in the end when it comes down to a decision in December. And they got to win the Big 12. I think everybody knows that. But getting this win against Alabama, I think to me really helps a lot. Because if you lose to them again, then here we go again. It's the same old story with Texas. They'll beat up on all these teams, but then when they got to play real competition, they'll lose. That's not the case this year. And I know it's 2-0, and I know it's still early, but I think Texas is going to be in the mix here. You have to admit that they're going to be in the mix here.
They look great. Just to run down through their schedule yet, they have Wyoming, Baylor, Kansas, the Red River Showdown rivalry versus Oklahoma, Houston, BYU, currently number 15 ranked Kansas State, TCU, Iowa State, and Texas Tech. So there's not – Houston is debatably a cupcake game. BYU's not quite a cupcake game. There's not really any super easy games on here. Like even Texas Tech, I believe, was ranked to start the season. I could be wrong, but I think so. Iowa State was ranked and has been a legit school there in the Big 12 recently. TCU, obviously, we know their story. BYU has been ranked recently. So Wyoming had that Oklahoma. Wyoming had that big win just last weekend. I forget who they were playing, but either way. So I think there's a chance that there's a road definitely for Texas. And this was the first step. You had to beat Alabama and you're going to have to win the Big 12. But I definitely think it's possible. On the Alabama side, though, it's getting tougher to sneak into the playoff with one win, especially with Georgia there in the SEC. Can they still get in with one win, you think?
I think they can still get in with one loss. I mean, listen, they wanted to put them in last year.
Yeah, one loss.
Yeah, you're good. They wanted to put them in last year, and they had like 3 losses. There was a case for them. So they still got a shot. I don't know exactly what their schedule looks like. I don't know if they play Georgia this year or if that's down the road in an SEC championship game. But it's Alabama. They're still good. They're still better than a lot of other schools, a lot of other programs. They'll hover around the top 10 for the rest of the season, I think. I'd be shocked if they lose another game, to be honest with you.
Their schedule for the rest of the season, USF next week, obviously not ranked. Ole Miss, 17, 2 weeks from now. Then Mississippi State, Texas A&M, Arkansas, Tennessee. That'll be a big game on October 21st. Then LSU on November 4th. Then Kentucky, Chattanooga, and Auburn to close it out there in the Iron Bowl. So there's a couple big matchups they have yet, but from what we've seen at Alabama in the past,
you got to win out.
There's no reason to doubt, for me at least. I'm not worried about them. Whether that includes a change of quarterback or not, I guess we'll see. But yeah, I'm more impressed by Texas than I am worried about Alabama. I'll put it like that. That all you got for Texas, Alabama? Because we can move on. Yeah, a quick chat about our 2 schools, of course.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, go ahead. You got the floor. Glow about USC.
I mean, like I said, USC is supposed to do this. This is what we've been missing out for years. Even before Lincoln Riley, we had a good program. We just didn't have the right guy at the helm. So it's like we would play Stanford, and we may win, but we may only win by a touchdown, or we may only win by a field goal. When in reality, the talent between the 2 schools was marginally different. So now we got Lincoln Riley at the helm. You got the Heisman, winner in Caleb Williams. This is what they're supposed to do. They are supposed to destroy teams like this. And they play Arizona State this weekend. I expect them to blow them out too. I don't expect a close game until the Colorado game. And even then, I'm not sure. Let's see how they look against Oregon. But again, I'm so proud of this team. The defense looked much better on Saturday. This is what they're supposed to do. Beat up on these programs that you have way more talent than.
Yeah, 100%. Caleb Williams still looking great. He's steadily still first in the Heisman.
Still your high, yes.
Yeah, he's got to be. For my Penn State Nittany Lions with a dominating 63-7, I believe. Yeah, 63-7 win over Delaware. I mean, hey, you took care of business. You did what you're supposed to do. There's nothing more to say, really. I mean, Katron Allen and Nicholas Singleton looking great. Drew Aller looking great at QB. The defense is looking fantastic. We'll see. Next test is I mean, we have Iowa coming up, not this week, next week, who they're currently ranked 25th. That'll be a whiteout game. And then, of course, the big two, Michigan and Ohio State, later on in the season. And
Ohio
that's
State University.
it's just Ohio State. But we'll see then, because that's really where the season hangs in the balance with those two games mostly, as long as you take care of business in the other ones. And that's been the story of the Penn State season, going 9-2 or 10-3 every year with a loss to Michigan and Ohio State, it seems like. So the hope is for this year to be different, and Penn State could maybe look to get into the college football playoff. It's a hope. Last year, the 4-team playoff, maybe we can claim our stake then, and we don't need the saying about we need to extend the playoffs just for Penn State to be able to get in. I had that with the Phillies. I don't need that with Penn State too. So, anything else you got from the college football weekend? Or I know you want to talk a little bit about Jordan Love.
Two things. Number one, thank you, Disney and Spectrum, for getting your shit together and coming to a deal. Those were a long 2 weeks of not being able to flip on ESPN. I wanted to watch Utah Baylor this past weekend. I couldn't do it because it was on ESPN. I wanted to watch Utah Florida because it was on ESPN. Couldn't watch it. Now I'm glad they were able to come to an agreement, because I love watching the college football and I love the Monday night games for the football and Sunday night baseball. And Sports Center with Scott Van Pelt. Shout out to him. I love that. I'm glad they were able to fix it, get it together. We needed it. And yes, the future is here with Jordan Love. Okay? Listen, I know the Bears are shit. I understand that. But Jordan Love went into a hostile environment, shoulder field. All these Bear fans saying that, Aaron Rodgers is gone. Now we're going to win the North. Now we're going to start our own beating up on the Packers. Not so fast, my friend. Just when you thought it couldn't get any worse, here comes Jordan Love, the franchise for the next 15 years. And his legacy started yesterday in Chicago, kicking the shit out of the Bears.
There we go. Heard it here first, President of Packers Nation.
Yes.
Go Pack, go.
Cheesehead.
That's right. Cheesehead in LA. Should be a Rams fan, but Packy's got that Packers blood in him, I guess.
CLB. No, never mind. No, that doesn't make sense. Never mind. I take that back.
All right. That is going to do it. Thank you, Melo, for stopping by. And hopefully we'll have another exciting weekend of college football to talk about next week. Till then, we'll see you later.
All right. See ya.
Okay, jumping over to the NFL side of things. Rough weekend for Kyle and the New York Giants. But overall, it was a pretty interesting Sunday slate of games. Toss that in with Thursday's opener. And hopefully tonight's Monday night game will be good. If they even end up playing it at this point, well, that's yet to be seen, seems like. But Kyle, rough weekend for the Giants. We'll talk about them. Well, like I said, talk about the Chiefs losing opening night to the Lions. Browns knocked off the Bengals in a bit of an upset. And 49ers smoked the Steelers against Melo and I's pick. So we look like idiots for picking the Steelers in that game. Kyle looked like a very smart person for taking them. And then my Eagles messed around a little bit with the Patriots. That almost paid the price for it. And we'll end on a sour note with the Giants Cowboys Sunday night football game. So starting off with the Kansas City Chiefs losing to Detroit Lions on Thursday Night Football. You get a chance to check that game out?
I did.
Yeah.
It was a shocker to say. Well, I mean, I don't want to say it was a shocker because Detroit's pretty damn good. They're looking like actually a competitive ball club, which is something that we're not used to, like at all.
Yeah.
So it's cool to see. I think Dan Campbell's the guy. I love his energy. He brings it every single night. He's ballsy, man, and it's showing on the field. What was it that he did?
Fake punt.
That's it. Yeah, there you go. Fake punt that you just don't see in today's game. I loved it, you know. Yeah, I mean, it was refreshing to see. I'm happy for the Lions, man. I mean, I'm rooting for them. You know, it's so good to see them back into a competitive level of play again.
Yeah. And I think it was a combination of people discounting the Lions and also people a little overhyped on the Chiefs. That sure, they did just come off beating my Eagles in the Super Bowl, but they were without Chris Jones on the defensive line, which will 2-1 right here. They just signed him to a 1-year contract, so he'll be back with the team. It depends on how well he was staying in shape and if he feels ready to just jump right back in with the team. If he'll be back this week or not, yet to be seen, I would assume. But then also Travis Kelce was out with that hyperextended knee he had in practice on I think it was like Tuesday or Wednesday. I think it was Tuesday before the Thursday night game. So those two combined, it sort of felt like an upset, but I don't know about you, but when we were picking the Thursday game, for me, it was on the line. I almost picked the Chiefs or the Lions. I'm sorry. I did pick the Chiefs. And the reason I picked the Chiefs was because Andy Reid seems to be able to game plan it up, and they have the best record in week 1 in the last 10 years. We just did a graphic about that. They were 9-1, I believe. So my thinking was Andy Reid, brand new season. He had a whole offseason to game plan things up. Now, maybe that was screwed up because he didn't have Travis Kelce. That's very possible. And also because your old pal, Kadarius Toney, dropped about 5 passes, which I'm sure that had to look good for you.
Yeah, no, I enjoyed it. I mean, you know, obviously that's in the past. Kadarius Toney's he's a second thought to me. It's kind of like whatever, you know, but he likes to talk a little bit of smack on social media. And Giants fans don't take to that lightly, you know, and me being the 2-for-1 combo, I'm also a Yankee fan. We know what that's like, you know, and New York does not take kindly to that at all. So yeah, you're gonna hear about it. If you're gonna be petty, we're gonna be 10 times as petty back, you know, that's just how it is. So I mean, did I have a smirk on my face when he dropped it a few times? Yeah, of course I did. I kind of was enjoying it. You know, I think that was the best part of the game for me personally. But you know, yeah, I think it just made that Lions win just a little bit sweeter for me.
Fair enough. He dropped like 2 or 3 clutch passes there at the end of the game because he had an opportunity to convert on 3rd down, and then on like 4th and 21, the Chiefs went for it, which was a bit of a questionable call, seeing as they had all 3 timeouts, and I think the 2-minute warning yet too. I'm not sure. I don't remember completely, but I'm pretty sure they had all 3 timeouts. So there was a bit of a debatable call because it just gave the Lions the opportunity to just kneel the clock out pretty much for the rest of the game. And instead, the Chiefs, well, obviously the Chiefs went for it. They didn't get it. But Toney, some tough drops there. The Chiefs receiving core, a little question marks around them. Are they missing Tyreek Hill now a little bit, or is it just because Travis Kelce was out for that game? What do you think?
I think it's Kelce, man.
Okay.
Kelce is such a big part of this offense, and he's obviously Mahomes' favorite target, especially now that Hill is gone. But you know, that's what good teams are supposed to, you know, overcome. That's just how it is. And I was with you with Andy Reid too. Just because you don't have Kelce doesn't mean you still don't have one of the best coaches in the NFL, along with the best quarterback in the NFL. That's just, you know, that's things that you're supposed to come, you know, adversity, supposed to get over it. But no, I mean, the wide receiving core did worry me a little bit, and it's looking like, you know, Mahomes was missing Hill a little bit there. They're not as bad as the Giants wide receiving core, but you know, didn't look great.
That's true. That's true. At least you didn't have Kadarius Toney dropping passes for your team in the Giants jersey. No,
yeah, we just had no chance of catching any ball because Jones had no offensive line. But yeah, we'll get to that. But yeah, so
yeah, we'll get there.
That's where the Chiefs do worry me a little. I think Kelce's a very huge part of this offense, and I think he needs to come back very soon for this to, you know, not blow up completely.
Yeah. I believe they have the Jaguars this week, which will be an interesting test for them. Jaguars coming off that trip to the AFC Championship a championship game against the Chiefs. So a little bit of a rematch there. On the Lions side, because we don't want to just make this all about the Chiefs, got to give a little credit to the Lions. They were aggressive on play calling, and it paid off for them this time. Now, you're not always that successful, especially when you mix in things like fake punts and going for it on fourth down. It can go back and forth on whether you convert or not. But Goff looked all right. Rookie running back Jahmyr Gibbs looked great. And pair that with Montgomery there in the backfield. And that Lions offensive line, they look pretty good on offense.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think what impressed me the most was Goff. He came from a very terrible situation, and it seems like he went to a worse situation than what he was in. Especially with Matt Stafford winning the Super Bowl with the Rams. It was just I thought Goff was going to turn into another one of those Lions quarterbacks that just didn't pan out, and that's it. But he's looking like the guy in Detroit, and I'm happy for him, man. He looked very impressive. He didn't look like he was getting too overwhelmed. He looked like he controlled himself, and you're going against one of the top teams in the NFL. Especially with such a young core of guys in Detroit. I think he just impressed me that much.
Yeah, for sure. He had played against the Chiefs in such a big game in that legendary, I think it was Monday night shootout down in or it was supposed to be in Mexico City or whatever happened there. That was a 51-54 game or something like that. But that was back when he had a lot of sweet weapons on the Rams, and before Sean McVay started to hate him and kick him off the Rams basically and say, hey, you're not good enough to win a Super Bowl. But maybe he was right in that. But anyway, I think that's going to be everything for the Thursday night game. That's basically old news at this point. Anyway, let's go to the fresh news on yesterday's slate of games, starting off with in the 1:00 window. The Browns upset the Bengals 24-3. Joe Burrow, 82 passing yards, coming off becoming the highest paid quarterback in NFL history. Kyle, I think you're struggling a little bit more because Burrow is on your fantasy team, if I'm correct, right?
He's on one of them. Yeah, it wasn't good.
Did you get a chance to check out any of that game, or were you watching Niners Steelers?
Yeah, so I was more tuned into the Niners Steelers game. But is it too much of a stretch for me to say that I wasn't too surprised about this game? Burrow is coming off of, I believe he was he wasn't 100%, going into this.
No, he got injured.
Yeah. So him, fresh contract, whatever it is, but he's still not 100%. And it just, that Browns defense, man. I mean, I believe in them this year. I really do. I love everything about it, and I think Burrow just looked overmatched, and I kind of had a feeling. I still thought the Bengals would win just because of the power that's on that team. But I'm not shocked by it,
It definitely helped the Browns. Rainy day. It was a rainy day across the NFL, pretty much everywhere, it seemed like yesterday. So offenses were not at full power, especially passing the ball, it seemed like, and especially in that Bengals game. Now on the defensive side for the Browns, Myles Garrett is an absolute monster, and he came up clutch. Did you see the highlight? It was him sort of mocking the offensive lineman. He was doing a crossover before he went and just broke right through the offensive line and sacked Joe Burrow. I thought that was hilarious. But Browns also brought in new defensive coordinator, guy I'm familiar with, Jim Schwartz, in, and apparently he's been the difference maker. Scheme can be a lot for a team, and a lot. I think it was Denzel Ward, cornerback for the Browns. He was questionable coming in, and he ended up playing. So that's huge for them if you're able to lock up a guy like Jamar Chase, and they were able to limit Joe Mixon and T. Higgins to what they were able to do. And I mean, Deshaun Watson was capable, and that's, well, he had that one awful interception where there was nobody around. He just launched it right to the Bengals defender. But other than that, he looked capable. And when you have Nick Chubb on your squad, it's pretty easy to just hand it off and let him do the rest.
Yeah. I mean, you summed it up right there. That's just how it is, you know. I mean, if Deshaun Watson can get back to what he was in Houston, I mean, that's kind of scary, you know. It's could make this Browns offense just that much better.
That could be enough to overcome the Browns' curse of quarterbacks that has been the case to this point. Even Baker Mayfield, seemingly, which we did not include him on the topics today. We don't have unlimited time, but props to them, to the Buccaneers for upsetting the Vikings. It was a good win, 2017. And just back on Browns Bengals, just to wrap this up real quick. Browns, are they getting slept on? Are Browns underhyped and Bengals overhyped a little bit into the season?
I wouldn't say the Bengals are overhyped, but I do think the Browns are underhyped. I kind of thought that going into the season, you know, and I'm gonna reiterate what I just said. I think this Browns defense has the capabilities of being one of the top in the NFL. I really do. They impress me so much. I mean, led by Myles Garrett over there. I mean, you saw him yesterday. That's that's what I'm saying, man. You know, I think the question marks are on offense. You know, if Deshaun Watson can, like I just said, if he can just get back to half of what he was in Houston, you never know, man. I mean, but yet again, it is a big question mark. But I do think they're underhyped a little bit.
Yeah, is the AFC North is loaded.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we sort of thought so. The Steelers let us down a little bit, but we'll get to that in a second here. But the Ravens, they looked pretty good yesterday. Granted, it was against the Texans. Either way, big loss to them too, losing J.K. Dobbins for the year, torn Achilles. That's gonna suck. But they looked good yesterday. Bengals obviously coming off a playoff run last year, and then the Steelers and the Browns. They were slated by some teams as the worst team in that division, and they just went in and knocked off the Bengals, who a lot of people had as the number one team in the division. So this AFC North could end up being a close race. Don't want to say that necessarily after week one because there's tons of football to be played. And I think last year in week one, the 49ers lost to the Bears. So strange things do happen in week one rainy games, especially rainy games. So moving on to the next match, though, mentioning the 49ers. You were tuned into this game, so I'd love to hear your analysis. I was more watching the Browns-Bengals. Steelers let me down big time. I went out on a limb and picked them to win against the 49ers. Melo, I don't want to say followed suit because everybody submitted their picks individually. It wasn't a group think there. We both had them. We were both very disappointed. Kenny Pickett didn't look good. The offense didn't look good. What'd you come away with from that game?
Yeah. First, I was shocked to find out that you guys picked the Steelers. This was a no-brainer for me.
Oh,
I mean, this was 100%. Like, I looked at this week and I was just like, yeah, Niners got this. Like, that's just exactly, that was my first thought, right? And this Niners offense and, well, their defense too. I mean, they just look good, man. They look great. I mean, I was just, you know, dogging on them because they got rid of Trey Lance. I thought they did it too early. But Brock Purdy shut me the hell up. I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
He looks great. I mean, this offense was firing on all cylinders. Brandon Ayuk had a hell of a game, and their defense was just doing what they normally do. I mean, this Niners team is exactly where I thought they would be, especially going into week one. This Steelers defense is nothing to be, you know, messed around with. I think the Steelers defense is great. This Niner offense, man, they look like they made the Steelers defense look like they were bottom in the league. I mean, I'm high on the Niners this year, man. I really am. It's exactly what I thought would play out. That's just
okay.
That was my analysis.
I'll flip the script and try to explain maybe a little bit of my thought process in picking the Steelers. So part of it was falling, I guess, for the hype machine for Kenny Pickett, because that was definitely rolling full steam ahead going into the season, coming off the preseason. George Pickens hyped up a lot. He had a great catch in some for meaningless practice that everybody seemed to interpret as him becoming a superstar. You can make a great catch every once in a while and not be a superstar. Now, maybe I'm the one who needs to listen to that. Najee Harris, a lot of people, there was mixed opinions on Najee Harris because he was coming off a bit of a disappointing preseason from what I understand in camp as well, that a rookie like 7th rounder or something was competing with him for touches. So don't love to hear that. But Kenny Pickett, I would say a lot of it. And then Mike Tomlin, it was at home for Pittsburgh. Mike Tomlin does great coaching his team up against underdogs. I don't know. I was thinking I didn't want to bet on Brock Purdy coming off the injury. I thought I needed to see more Brock Purdy before declaring him to be the future for San Francisco. I mean, maybe I've seen enough now that he is, but Melo and I were also talking. Melo would like a shot to be the quarterback and hand it off to Christian McCaffrey every time and throw to George Kittle on a slant route across the middle and just throw a bubble screen to Deebo Samuel because it seems like a lot of people could do that.
Hey, man, I mean, look at this Niners team the last few years. Jimmy Garoppolo took him to the Super Bowl and damn near won the thing.
Yeah.
I mean, this Niner team is set up that way. I mean, listen, you're going to find that I'm going to dog on Daniel Jones a lot, right? I'm going to. That's just how it is. I disagreed with the pick when the Giants made it, but I'm going to tell you one thing. You put Daniel Jones on that Niner offense, he's going to look like Tom Brady. I mean, that's the way that this Niners team is built. Brock Purdy is the lowest paid player on their team. Quarterback. One of the literally the most important position in football. And you got the lowest paid one on your team. Like, that's just what I'm saying, man. This Niner team is set up that way. They got a hell of a defense over there, and their offensive weapons are just, you can slot anybody in there. That's just the way it seems like it's running in San Francisco.
That's the conversation piece for basically anybody talking about the Niners throughout the whole offseason was you can slot anybody in there. People were saying if Brock Purdy isn't ready, you could slot Sam Darnold in there and he'd be able to look like his USC days and look capable and not look like a bust like he was probably. That's sort of what the thinking was around Trey Lance, though, too, is that he'd be able to perform there if you gave him a chance. But their thinking is, why would we want to pay him when we can pay Brock Purdy basically nothing for literally like 4 or 5 years and be able to, then you're able to pay your offensive weapons like Kittle and like Deebo Samuel and like Christian McCaffrey. So that's an interesting point for sure. And it seems like the Niners are set to be a force to be reckoned with in the NFC for the foreseeable future. You got anything else you want to add for 49ers Steelers?
I don't think so.
Okay. Jumping over to my team, Philadelphia Eagles went into New England on Tom Brady's retirement party, whatever it was. I don't even know. Tom Brady was in the building. Patriots were honoring him. Eagles jumped out to a quick 16-0 lead. And I was like, oh, boy, here we go again. It's them boys again. And Darius Slay with a big interception, pick 6 early. Offense seemed to be doing all right. I go away to eat dinner and make dinner and come back, see it's 19-16 at halftime. I'm like, well, all right, we're still winning by 3. And then we mess around a little more and only finished with a final score of 25-20 with the Patriots having an opportunity to win the game on the final drive. Came down to a guy wasn't able to drag his feet inbounds on the final play. You get a chance to check that game out?
I did. That was obviously on right before my Giants. So I was tuned in, and me being a Giants fan, of course, I mean, it's only right that I was rooting for New England. Come on, man.
I mean, that's tough though, rooting for the Patriots.
We beat them twice in the Super Bowl. I have no hard feelings against Patriots.
Okay.
At the end of the day, though, I liked what I saw from Philly, right? But it worried me a little bit. I mean, maybe it's just me being, just because I hate the Eagles, But at the same time, you're deemed as like the best team in football, one of. So it shouldn't be that close, nor should you be blowing 16-0 leads,
Yeah.
not blowing them, but like making them a lot closer than what they should be. So maybe it was just, first game of the season, off to a slow start. Jalen Hurts and Dallas Goedert got me no points in fantasy, which I'm severely pissed about. Um, but anyway, I think this was just maybe first game jitters for this Eagles team. That might just be it, because as much as I hate to admit it, the Eagles are a damn good team, and I think they're going to prove that. I wouldn't be worried. I'm really not about this Eagles team. I think they just, don't do that. That's just what
Yeah.
it comes down to.
Yeah.
Be the team that you're supposed to be. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. Between jitters, first week of the first game of the season, plus going into New England and playing Bill Belichick, one of the greatest defensive minds in football history ever. And then just throw on top of that, it was a wet, sloppy game as well. Like I said, all across NFL, especially on the East Coast, not a lot of nice weather games. But that's what I'm trying to chalk it up to as an Eagles fan. One thing I will say, play call. I don't know if I'm missing our coordinator who went to Indy to become the head coach. Slipping his name right now, of course. But it was a questionable call by I think Nick Sirianni is calling the plays this year on offense. When we went for it on 4th and 2,
yes,
we threw the ball. First of all, going for it on 4th and 2. I was 50-50. I honestly could have went either way. We could have punted it, and I would have been like, yeah, good, pin them back deep. We could have, we did go for it, and I was like, all right, trying to end the game now. Understand that. Don't let them have a chance. Makes sense. But then we went for it, and we called a passing play, and I was like, I don't know about that. Now, it was too far to do the Eagles quarterback sneak, which is just literally a hack. At this point, it's 3 yards, but it was too far. It was a long 2 yards. Impossible to quarterback sneak that. But we could have handed it off, I thought. I mean, come on. With that Eagles offensive line, I'd feel better with that chances than throwing the ball on a rainy day against Bill Belichick. I didn't like those chances as much. So, yeah, play call, a little bit I was worried about. Eagles defense, though, I thought looked great. Jalen Carter, adding him into the Eagles defensive line rotation is just at this point not really fair. He looks like he's been a veteran in the league, an all-pro veteran for like 4 years. He just went and wreaked havoc against Mac Jones and the Patriots offensive line. So I was impressed by that. Anything else you got takeaways from that Eagles-Pats game?
Yeah, no, I don't think so. But that 4th and 2, that reminded me a lot of forget what Super Bowl it was, but Seahawks and Patriots. That's
Seahawks,
exactly
Patriots.
what that reminded me of. Yeah, you have a damn good running back room, especially with the Eagles. They seem to, no matter who you slot in at running back, they turn into the best running back room in all of football for some reason. Why not just run? That was my thought, but yeah, that's it.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Anyway, all right. We had to talk about it. We have to talk about it. I was hoping it'd be a good game, honestly. Wrap out Sunday slate of games with a good NFC East matchup. And I'll tell you, Kyle, I was rooting for the Giants. I don't like the Giants. I don't like the Commanders, but I hate the Cowboys. If there's one team that I can't stand the most in all of sports, it's the Cowboys. Close second, Ohio State, but the Cowboys come first. That's no question. I don't hate the Braves. I don't hate the Mets more than I hate the Cowboys. That's just how it is. And I go out there and see Dak Prescott and the Cowboys go for 40 points on the Giants, and the offensive line looked the way it did for the Giants. I felt bad for Daniel Jones. He got sacked. It was like 10 times for yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so I wish that I could say I was positive about something, but I'm not positive about a damn thing on this team, let me tell you. I had high expectations for this Giants team. I mean, I have to, right? We won our first playoff game last year in how many years, man? I mean, dude, I really don't. This offensive line is terrible. Andrew Thomas got hurt on the opening drive, I believe it was, and this offensive line is already shaky as it is. Andrew Thomas is one of the best offensive linemen in all of football. He looked like shit last night. Let me tell you, it was terrible. You could obviously he was in pain the entire game. You know, that worries me a lot. John Michael Schmitz, who was our second round pick this past season, just he looked overmatched completely. He's a rookie, you know. I get it. It's gonna take a little bit. But dude, there was no positives. I feel terrible for Dan Jones. I mean, dude, literally every play that was called, he was getting rushed on completely. He had no line at all. Dude, I can't even tell you how many. I feel like he only threw like two actual passes. One was completed to Darren Waller. You know, I mean, I wish that they would have got him involved more. I'm really excited for Darren Waller, you know, but I barely got to see it. This wide receiver room, there's none of them. I'm sorry, but when you have Isaiah Hodgins as your number one receiver, that's not right, man. You know, Barkley even looked bad last night, dude. Dude, if this team doesn't even have Saquon Barkley working at all levels, what do you got, man? You got no offense. Flipping to the defense, right? So this defense, I was excited for. I knew they're not great, but this defensive line, dude, has a chance to be one of the
You
best
have
in
some
football.
guys on defense.
Dude, that's what I'm saying. This defensive line excites me completely. You know, you got Dexter Lawrence, you got Kayvon Thibodeau, Azeez Ojulari, Leonard Williams, and Isaiah Simmons just came over from Arizona. You know, I'm excited to see him. I feel like Wink, you know, blitzing all the time. That's the kind of the scheme that Simmons needs to excel. And, you know, corners are a little shaky. Safeties are all right, whatever, you know. But, dude, this defense looked overmatched too. You know, all you have to do as an offensive line is double team Dexter Lawrence. That's your recipe for success against this Giants defense. Double team Dexter Lawrence, and you're good. That's it. You don't let him in. I mean, the other guys weren't doing shit last night. So that's my rant. It was terrible. By the way, I don't want anybody putting Dak Prescott on a pedestal. By the way, he was bailed out by his offense and his defense and his special teams. So you know, that's all. I had to put that in there. You know, so
Dak Prescott, I've definitely had my questions about him, and I still do. I don't think he's a top 10 quarterback in the NFL. Top 15, yeah, he's probably closing in around that area. But for the Cowboys offense, for the most part, he needs to just be consistent and not turn the ball over like he has in the past years, especially last year when he led the NFL in interceptions and missed 3 games. So that's brutal. You can't be doing that. And of course, he had that quote over the offseason where he was going to, I forget what he said, he was going to throw less than so many interceptions. And it was like, well, you don't need to come out and say that. Just go out and do it.
yeah,
He didn't throw any last night, did he?
probably not.
I
Giants
don't think
defense
so.
was nowhere to be found.
Yeah, I don't think so. So Dak's just got to be capable. And it's not quite the Niners level. You got to be a little more dynamic than that. I'd say you have to have the ability to take a couple more deep shots with the Cowboys offense. When you got that receiver like CD Lamb, he's a deep threat. Now, other than that, Tony Pollard looked all right last night. There was questions about him with the injury. Yeah, the question about him with the injury. And with that offensive line in Dallas, for the most part, even against some of the best pass rushing teams in the league, you're going to have time. Zach Martin's probably the best guard in the league right now. And they have other pieces on that offensive line as well. So you're going to have time. You just need to be capable, not make the dumb mistakes, not throw it to the other team. Literally. That's what Dak Prescott, that's what his Achilles heel has been. And Dak has been able to be mobile. I mean, he's not Phillip Rivers sitting in the pocket. He's not Daniel Jones or Josh Allen either. But he's somewhere in between, and that's all right. That's kind of what the Cowboys need. So yeah, that's kind of all the takeaways, I guess. You got it all out in there in that one big rant, right?
I had to, man. Daniel Jones, he impressed me from what he could do. His legs were great, man. I mean, every time he rushed that ball, I mean, he looked better rushing than Saquon Barkley did last night. But yeah, that's all I got.
All right. That's going to put a close to episode 3 here. Appreciate you stopping by, Kyle. And it was painful for you probably talk Giants football today. But you battled through it. You got your chance to complain about it. I'm sure that felt good. So looking forward to another full weekend of football. A nice game, hopefully tonight on Monday. Another good game Thursday. My Eagles taking on the Vikings. And then full slate NFL and college Saturday and Sunday. Shout out to your Notre Dame. They took care of business as well. So positive at least. That's right. All right. That's going to be everything for episode 37. We will see you next week. Thank you for watching.